Day 2 in Shanghai. Have a fever and decided that what I need is some comfort food from home. So this is where we're at. The Taco Bell in Shanghai has a lot of similarities to what you would find back home. There's the assembly line and a dining area just like you would find back home. However, where it's a little different is when you look at the menu. And there are some items on the menu that you wouldn't be able to find back home. For example, you have shrimp tacos. Once we went and ordered our meal, we then sat down and waited for them to bring our food to us. And this ended up taking a few minutes. We ended up getting 2 different combos from one another. I got the standard chicken taco and the beef taco, whereas my father got the chicken taco with the shrimp taco. This was also the first time I ever had fries at Taco Bell. But what I can tell you is that the food tasted pretty much the exact same as back home, and it was exactly what I needed at this time. So we each finished our meals, and then we stood outside looking around at what was around us before we headed off back to our hotel, the Waldorf Astoria, Shanghai on the Bund. Thankfully, because of a lot of traveling, my father had a lot of points saved up and was able to get us some free nights at this hotel. And what's special about the Waldorf Astoria, you might ask? Turns out, this hotel is one of the most extravagant 5-star hotels that you can find in mainland China. It has a great location, situated right on the Bund, and the level of service that you get at this hotel is top-notch. Special shout out to one Jimmy, a staff member who helped us book our train tickets for probably 2/3 of our trip. Booking train tickets in China is not easy, and I'll probably talk more about that in a future video. But anyways, I was really happy when we were finally able to check into our room at the hotel, and I pretty much just stayed in this room for the rest of the day because I was going to try to recover so that I could see more of Shanghai the next day. Day 3 in Shanghai, and this time recovering from being sick. Had a fever yesterday, still have a little bit of one. You can probably hear it in my voice. Have a little bit of a sore throat because of all the drainage. But anyways, at breakfast at the hotel right now, and here is the massive buffet and also what I got for my meal today. This is going to be big enough for breakfast and lunch. And it turns out that I was right. I ordered a side dish and then proceeded over to the buffet to see what they had to offer, which was an excessive amount of cuisine. Absolutely everything here was top-notch, whether it was bacon, baked beans, even brisket. There's also the standard breads and other baked goods, along with cereals, toppings, yogurts, and they even have sections for fruit and salad if that's what you're into. They also have options for Chinese food, like the dim sum that you just saw, and all of these dishes. I think that looks like a big enough meal, don't you? Feeling absolutely stuffed, it was time for us to move on to our main location for the day, Yuyuan Garden, which it turns out is also in the old town of Shanghai and was just a short taxi ride away. Unfortunately for us, what we hadn't counted on was for it to be raining this day. So it was crammed with people bashing into one another with their umbrellas. So we finished our breakfast at the Waldorf Astoria and now we're at Yuyuan Gardens. Let's go ahead and check it out. I don't really recommend for someone to go during the summer if this is the kind of situation you're going to end up in. But that's what travel's like in most of China if you go during a time when everyone else is traveling. So what is Yuyuan Garden, and what makes it so special, you might ask? Well, if the clips haven't been able to demonstrate it enough already, Yuyuan Garden is one of the oldest and largest gardens of a traditional southern architectural style that still exists from the Ming Dynasty in Shanghai. For those who come to China seeking to see what old wealth looked like back in the day, this is one of the best places that you can possibly go in China. The garden is around 5 acres in area, and is full of pavilions, halls, rockeries, ponds, cloisters, and many other very interesting signs of craftsmanship, such as these windows that you see me waving through here, as well as the walls that have large black dragons that wind their way across the top of the walls surrounding the entire garden. It's inside Yuyuan Garden that you really get to see the intricacies and art that existed back in the day that you won't see around most of the rest of China today. So, how did it come to be here? It was first built in 1559 during the Ming Dynasty by someone named Pan Yunduan, who was the governor of Sichuan but came from Shanghai, and he built it for his father as a means to make him feel comfort in his old age. However, because he was appointed as governor in Sichuan, that meant that the construction had to be halted for nearly 20 years. However, it was eventually completed. Over time, the garden was passed down through different owners and was eventually purchased by merchants who renovated the entire place during the mid to late 18th century. And although the gardens have been damaged numerous times by conflicts such as the Opium War during the 1800s, as well as the Taiping Rebellion, and by the Japanese during World War II, it has been restored to its former glory and open to the public since 1961, but it wasn't declared a national monument until 1982. Something you may have noticed is that the furniture here, as well as many stones, have a unique kind of design to them. This is largely because they are limestone and come from a lake where, by submerging them in water for a long period of time, the stones begin to form pores and holes. They're a very popular form of decoration, and you will find them in a lot of more traditional gardens around China. There are plenty of other things that I could talk about in Yuyuan Garden, but maybe it would just be best for me to show you instead, and let you relax, listen to the music, and enjoy what you see for a bit. I hope you enjoyed that moment of peace. Now, let's continue. If there's any criticism I have of the garden, it's, of course, the same thing that is my biggest issue with most tourist attractions in China, which is the English translations. I wish they could be a little more descriptive for people who don't know anything about the place, but ultimately, I think that that isn't a large issue or something that most people are too interested in for most who will travel to this place. Instead, most people will enjoy walking along these hallways and enjoying the various sights there are in the garden. We ended up staying here for about half of the day, but I think it would be possible to stay here for a bit longer if it had not been raining. I can only imagine how different it would have looked without the rain. And if you like these kinds of gardens, this is really the only one here in Shanghai. But in the city next to us, in Suzhou, there are other gardens that you can see too, but maybe none are quite as grand as this one. Ultimately, I find that Yuyuan is a place that is a must-see if you are considering going to Shanghai, even for just one day. And for us, this was the end of our time at the garden. And it was certainly my highlight from being in Shanghai. Eventually, upon returning back to near our hotel, we found this restaurant, Dahuchun, a Michelin star restaurant that specialized in serving various types of dumplings, with lots of options for fillings and for mostly very cheap prices. For those who don't know what the conversion is, 1 US dollar would be about 7 yuan, so you can actually imagine how cheap these are, relative to what you would find in the US. We ordered a wonton soup, as well as some fried buns, and to be honest, I actually found that a different place called Yang's Dumplings was actually better, and that's a chain that you'll find all around the city. But it's also possible that my taste buds could have been off because I was sick. Then, to finish off our last day in Shanghai, what we ended up doing was heading outside and going over to the Bund, which was right outside of our hotel's main door. This is where you go to watch the ships go across the river that flows through the middle of the city, as well as to see all of the buildings, both in the historical section of the city, as well as the new parts, all lit up at night. We were very fortunate that it didn't rain on us at all, but there were a bunch of people there despite the rain having just stopped. It's very noisy and very crowded, with people not really watching where they're going. However, it is worth the spectacular view that you will get to see. Even on a day when it's cloudy and misty like it was here, it's still wonderful to look out and see all the boats as they slowly go by. I just don't really recommend that you try to take a picture without clearing the area around you first, because someone will always inevitably get in your way when you try to take a photo. This being the end of our time in Shanghai, I have just a quick thing that I want to say. 3 days was definitely not enough time for going here for my first time ever, and I would gladly go back. There's still plenty more for me to see that I would love to go do if I can return to Shanghai. Now, I'll leave you with this view from Shanghai's Bund. Thank you again for watching this video. Please comment down below what you thought about this video. Also, please like and subscribe to the channel, and look forward to seeing future videos.